Cool. Alright. I think we're ready to start stream. Yay. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Hi there, Kyle. Welcome. All right. So, last week on Tuesday, we were working on a dynamic image reloading system. Basically, a system that would make it so we didn't immediately allocate all the image resources in the game in one go. And we've actually had a lot of changes since then. And so, what we're doing today is we're finishing that up. Over the weekend, because I was looking at the last stream I did, and I'm like, am I going too far with this? Am I doing too much? And I think the answer was I kind of was. So I decided to dial it back a little bit, or at least rethink of what we were supposed to be doing. So in the branch, I recently made a commit. It says, this commit is full refactor and implementation of the new graphics manager class. You can see here it's a giant commit. This is like over 516 additions. This is a giant change. Also, hi Micah, welcome to the stream. Are you cold? No, I'm not. It's summer, so it's very hot actually. Yeah. But so what I've been doing is basically I've been rewriting the GFX class. Basically, it's no longer just a map. It's no longer a data structure. What it is, and I think I can go to Graphics Manager to show here, this is the source file for the new Graphics Manager class. So what I've done in summary, because we're going to be working on this a little bit today, is there's a new class called Graphics Manager, and there is a macro GFX, which is GFX originally was an unsafe map. It was like a global, right? Oh, I did have a cold. Like, I was sick, yes. So I've been recovering from that. I actually thought it was like over last week, and it actually got worse. So I was a little upset about that, but I'm recovering from it well. But yeah, if my voice sounds a little bit funny, it's because of that. Like, I'm still recovering. Yeah, just getting through it, but I'm well enough to stream today, so that's fun. But yeah, so what I've done is, the way we usually used a GFX was, it was a lookup into a map, right? So all we did was we used like the bracket operator, and so we still have the bracket operator. I've actually made a custom operator bracket function for it, and inside it now looks up a GFX internal map. So Graphics Manager itself has a map called GFX, lowercase GFX, but the way we utilize it is through capital GFX. And the whole point of doing this is we now have this concept of an image load capacity in bytes. The data structure of a sprite is it's 1 byte for every color, like RGB and alpha, and so that's 4 bytes of memory per pixel in an image. So if you had a 1000 by 1000 sprite, that would be the equivalent of 4 million bytes of data, because that's 1 million times 4. Thank you. So yeah, what I've done is I made an image load capacity, and essentially this is kind of like a garbage collector almost. I was originally going to subdivide all the images into multiple categories and say, okay, at certain points in the game, load and unload certain categories, right? We did that a little bit with the visual novel stuff last week, but then I realized there's too much that we have to load anyway to just subdivide into 3. We would have to create like a lot more subdivisions, and it would take a lot more manual work. So I've decided that it's going to now be a garbage collector, and we have this graphics manager. It's a static member that's initialized at startup, so you could say it's almost like a singleton. Yeah, it just exists at the beginning of the program startup. And there's also a forced graphics manager, which is the same thing, but it initializes the graphic right away. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, now we wanted to display an image on the screen. And so in here, this is like a draw function. I would reach into this GFX, it's now a macro, and use the bracket operator to say what image I'm interested in. It's like, okay, great. You're not actually going to get back this image right away, because what the graphics manager now does is it puts it into a queue. So there is a queue here of strings, which is the list of assets that have to be loaded. But then you might be wondering, if it's not going to load this image, what is it going to load? Well, we have this blank image file name, which is a placeholder asset while an image is loading. So this image gets loaded in place of it until the real image is loaded in. And so inside of the implementation here, in this operator, we can see here that if the graphic doesn't already exist, like it hasn't been queued up, it's going to be, well, this initializes it. This actually isn't required, I don't think. It will try to load, oh wait, this is the forced graphics manager. Sorry, I'm a little confused. Here is the normal graphics manager. So if it doesn't exist, it's going to load up the blank image, and then it's going to queue up the actual image. Hi there, Cartone. So I've come up with like a kind of garbage collector solution for my game's graphics system. Essentially, we're shifting over to this so that we no longer have to have everything loaded at the beginning of the game, while still making it a bit flexible enough to not require us to have to manually decide what gets loaded and unloaded, because that's a lot of work, a lot of manual work. So a garbage collector system, I think, is the next best solution. You need to have deferred loading at this point. Well, I would say it's not like super big. Like, we're under a gigabyte of RAM, but for a game of that I'm making, like, kind of looks retro, and I don't think people would expect that it uses over a gigabyte of RAM, which I expect it will by the end when we've included the final chapter's assets. I would like it to not to if it doesn't have to, right? If we can bring that down to like 500 megs, I feel like that would be a lot more reasonable for a game that looks like my game does. Like, my game doesn't look very intensive, so to load everything at the beginning of the game is kind of just wasteful. And I think it's a little wasteful of resources. You're hoping to fit everything in 6 gigs of VRAM? I mean, if you want to go that route, you can, right? Like, this is a fun challenge for me. It's also a good practice, because in reality, you never want to load every single thing at once, right? Especially if you're going to develop even larger games or projects, you really can't have everything loaded in memory all the time. So, graphics is one of the most expensive things to keep loaded up. Same with audio, but audio gets streamed, so that's kind of nice. Mini Audio handles all that for us. But yeah, back to the graphics. Basically, an image that doesn't exist yet, hasn't already been loaded, gets queued up, and at the same time gets a timestamp. The timestamp is used to determine how garbage collection should be handled. So, let's say it did exist, it would just reset the access time and give us what the image is. But if the image isn't loaded yet, it gives us a blank image placeholder and returns that. So images that aren't loaded yet just show this like blank placeholder until they are loaded. We have this load image in queue function, which is called every frame. So if your game runs at like 100 frames per second, it will attempt to load one image every frame for 100 frames in a second. That's just a reasonable thing to do. Like, every frame your game runs, attempt to load an image that's in the queue. So it tries to load it. It updates what the size of the current image capacity is. And this is just logging information for us. And then here's the garbage collection portion. So basically, every time, wherever we want to call this, I decide to call this after each stage. Like, you get done with the level and you're on the loading screen, that's when we do a garbage dump. So essentially, until, let's see. So first it sorts all the graphics by the last access time. So the ones that have been accessed the latest or the earliest get placed in front. At least that's how I think that reads, because it shifts all the ones that are greater to the back. I think that's how that reads. It might be backwards, but we'll have to see. But anyways, after that, it iterates through them, and while the image load size is greater than the image load capacity, it will erase from it. I should put an else and actually break out of this loop, if that is not the case. So all that is handled by Mini Audio, and Mini Audio does on-the-fly loading and unloading. Essentially, a sound effect gets loaded the moment it's required, and when it's done playing, it gets released from memory. Sound effects are quite small, so on-the-fly loading is very easy to do. And it's also threaded, so it doesn't really cost anything. And then for music, it gets streamed. So like, there'll be a small buffer, like an audio buffer, and it'll constantly get filled up. And as it plays, it's like a, what do you call it? Like a circular buffer. So it just gets filled up over and over with more music data over time. So it obviously costs more CPU, but doesn't waste much memory. And that's pretty much all it does. So yeah, this function existed before. It just grabs from our game pack or from an actual file, depending on if the game pack's loaded, and if the game pack has an asset, it tries to load it from there. Otherwise, it'll try to load it from file system. Otherwise, it will break. And yeah, that's pretty much the general synopsis of it. And then there's a forced graphics manager, where every once in a while, at least in code to keep it like, to make it adaptable, there are places where sometimes we directly need like the sprite width or the sprite height for like calculations, and we can't wait for it to be deferred. So I have this other macro called GFX force, where if we use GFX force, at that moment it will attempt to load the asset if it isn't loaded, so that can be used. So this is like initializing things at the beginning of the game. This function we had a lot of problems with before because it relied on the texture, and the texture wasn't loaded in the other system we were trying to do. So we're like, how do we solve this? So sometimes we still overwrite the deferred loading and still manually load on the fly. How many concurrent sound effects can you have in your game? Well, as many as we want, but I don't think we would ever play 100 sounds. That probably breaks your speakers unless you're playing like the quietest sound in the world. But we can play virtually as many as we want. In theory, I don't think there's a cap, and I don't think it really falters unless you play something really insane. Like, I don't know. Let me just real quick here. I want to just check something regarding Mini Audio, because there is a what do you call it? There's like a PG Tinker of like the Mini Audio demo. I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick. It'd be cool. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let me look at this. So this is the mini audio, the PegX, which is an extension of the Pixel Game Engine's mini audio. So I think if I just... like, it'll just create new instances and play them all, so I'm pretty sure there's not really a limit there. Like, you can play as many as you can hold, you can activate if you want. Well, at that point, I'd imagine you have, like, clipping and stuff, right? So, yeah, there's probably that. Like, I don't know, it depends how it's handled, but it's handled kind of smartly in this case, because they'll just reuse that same asset and just, like, add to the waveform wherever it's reading the image. Like, I didn't write the library, so I'm not entirely certain on the specifics, but I'd imagine it's as simple as reading what audio data is at each moment in time and just tracking these structures that just move in these moments of time to read whatever audio data and sample it, and then put it all together into one giant waveform that's played, which eventually leads to clipping if you keep adding onto each other. But yeah. Like, I'd imagine it'd be very wasteful to actually load the file multiple times. You just have, like, little markers of where you are in the position of each timed sound effect. Yeah. But anyways, that's the new graphics manager. And where we're at now is this thing is almost actually working. I've got most of it working, but I had to make a lot of, like, adjustments to it because obviously... Oh, I closed it. Obviously, when I did this, a lot of these, like, things accepted... They either didn't have the full image path, or they accepted, like, either pointers to decals, or, like, they stored the image themselves by, like, copying the pointer, which I no longer can do because the pointer will change over time depending on what the deferred loading does. So a lot of places I had to substitute an image pointer for, like, a string to an image, and then that just does a lookup that handles doing all the deferred loading stuff. So if I were to run this right now, I think we're, like, almost at a point where it works. There are a couple of little issues, but we're gonna probably see them here because it either crashes the game or there are assets that still don't load due to other reasons. I used to play some very repetitive MMOs, and I was grateful that the designers limited the amount of sound effects that can be played at once. I don't think I enjoyed hearing 20 mobs die at the same time every 5 seconds. Yeah, mini audio, yeah, you can, like, feed in a... What do you call it? You can feed in direct audio data into both, like... both channels. Or I guess if you had more channels, like 4 or 5 channels, you could do more. But, like, yeah, you can feed each one individually. And originally when the mini audio, like, PegX for Pixel Game Engine was written, I was like, I would like to have, what do you call it? I want to have, like, custom waveforms and stuff. And so what I did was I actually went in and wrote some extra stuff for it. Like, I added this, like, data callback thing where, or excuse me, not data callback. Where is it? I don't know. It's been a minute, but I promise I did something. Was it not here? Maybe it's a different version of it. This might be old. Essentially, though, I wanted to add that feature, so I kind of did. And there are some compile errors right now. Okay, what happened? So, oh, okay. So some of this got removed. Backdrop data and that's what I was testing. So some maps have, like, backgrounds and foregrounds. And if I go to backdrops.txt, we can see here there's some assets specified here. So obviously these need to be accounted for inside the game. So I found out they were actually stored separately from the graphics data structure. So I went ahead and actually condensed it. So hopefully it works now. I just have to get rid of any other references to it or fix them. So here, what did we do? Oh, it still has a reference to foredrop data, the map. So I need to replace this with the new foreground map, which is this right here. Yeah. So it reads it from a config file, and that's just the name of it. So now it's going to be gfx foredrop name .decal. And that should fix that one. Apparently there's more down here. Oh, here's one. So yeah, this is old. So the way we detect it now is this if statement right here checks in if the config has... So basically, backdrops will always exist, that's the rule, but a foredrop for the same key might not exist. So, like, for example, the forest doesn't have a foreground item. I called it a foredrop. I don't know why I didn't call it foreground. But, yeah. Because of that, we can just check if it exists or not to determine if we continue here. And then it draws from GFX now and foredrop data, or foredrop name. And same for the background data. Well, for the background data, it actually is stored in this .backdrop member. That's how we get it originally. So I just have to call GFX there. And I'll fix that. So yeah, it's just like little things throughout the game engine have been modified. And so there's been a lot of like small refactors everywhere, which is expected when you modify something as large as the graphics image handling pipeline. Like, it's a pretty significant change. Okay, so now we can actually see what the loading process looks like a little bit. So now every time an asset is requested, also I'm going to pull this out because I like to keep an eye on the memory usage right now. But yeah, every time an asset is now requested, what's going to happen is it actually says, if it's instant request, it will say so, and like it'll just show, yeah, that some amount has been used up now. But for example, if a request is not instant, then instead, oh my god, there's just so much messages. Here we go. So these are like not instant requests. So it says image load request, and then that will get loaded in later. So you see this actually says requested and loaded this image. That's a frame later. So some of these images don't immediately get loaded until later. Now you'll see there's actually one of the placeholder images here, because this is what I was talking about. Some images still reference something else. So this is like supposed to be the window border and it's not showing up. So it's just a placeholder image because it can't find that image. But everything else, for a brief moment, like you would have seen the placeholder images for all these images, and they've been replaced now and loaded. So yeah, and you'll see that for like anything. It'll like, it kind of has this like pop-in effect, but it's only for a frame, so you'll probably not notice it. And so I was testing the background foreground thing on any of these forest stages because they don't have a foreground. You can see like the windows are messed up right now. Okay, so abort has been called. So basically we can see this provides a stack trace when something bad happens, like it says cannot find or match case for file name assets / forest. So somehow it was looking for forest, which if we look here, like this is supposed to be asset slash forest underscore backdrop.png. So what probably happened was we interpreted the key and not the value of the key, because it should have been forest backdrop.png, not this. So this gets loaded. Well, we can check anywhere really, because I was editing all these earlier, but let's see here. So like here, backdrop.length, if it's greater than 0, attempt to draw it, right? So like this backdrop, yeah, this backdrop is the key, so this isn't the image name, so that's where we went, that's where we messed up. So we have to interpret this key name to get the actual value. So that would be, I guess we would just do like standard format backdrops dot whatever to get that one. So that's my bad. And I might even put that in its own little variable so I can have it separate from here. Backdrop name. File name, I guess. And we also have to include assets in front of it, which I don't know if we do. Because it did add it, so I think it auto did that. So we might be good there, but yeah, this should be backdrops dot whatever, and then backdrop file name can be inserted in here to get what we need. But that also means assets is not included, so that's interesting. It's almost like the dot backdrop. See, that has me more confused, because it said it was trying to load asset slash forest. Is that the key name? Like, the problem with the deferred loading, and something I realized, is that deferred loading means that unless you store where it was called, which we can do. I did it earlier, but storing stack traces is very, very expensive, so I can't do it like every frame. But like, if you do deferred loading, you don't have a stack trace, because it can be loaded at a later time, so it doesn't know where it originated from. So one solution to that, at least what I was thinking of, was doing what we do for logging, which if we look at the log function, we output a source location. So whenever we submit a request, so we can go back to our graphics manager real quick. I don't know how expensive this is. I know when I did stack trace, it was very, very expensive. But what we can do, if we want to like debug this easier or know exactly where it came from, is oh, wrong operator. By the way, I use this to see if it like contains, because it's just like an OR operator. So in my head, I'm like, it makes sense. But anyways, if we add a source location here, and maybe we make it standard, I think by default we can just say like the current source location. I'm pretty sure that's a thing, like current. Yeah, that's a thing. So if we make that the default, I'm pretty sure it will work. I think IntelliSense is being slow, but that should in theory work. Oh wait, this is a default, so wrong syntax. Default argument. Okay, so in theory, if we store the current source location on calling this operator, it should work. Now we just have to adjust the implementation for it. And we will have, at least we will know where the original call for this or request for this was at. Because I think that's the important point. Oh, thanks, Kraton. Yay. God, yeah. My throat's still choppy. It was terrible getting through last week. One moment. Alright, sorry about that. Kind of an emergency phone call. Alright, anyway, okay. Get my refocus. So we're adding a source location because we wanted to have better debug information for deferred loading. Stack traces are very expensive and very slow, so we don't really want that. But essentially, if this... So what we can do is send this location data as part of... Wait, where am I? Okay, send this location data as an attachment to this image load queue, so that if this image load queue fails, it has information about where it was originally called from. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to say insert the file name and the source location. We'll turn this into a pair. So image load queue is now going to hold a pair that contains both the file name itself. I'm going to replace this with img file name. It's just a using, does the same exact thing, just more descriptive. And then the source location, which I'm just going to put as standard source location. It does say in the documentation for source location, it's a pretty light structure and meant to be copied around, so hopefully it doesn't slow down things too much. But eventually what I would like to do is be able to, like, say, maybe we can just, like, either cut this out in, like, the release build or something. I don't know. That might be the way to go. Alright, so anyways, we insert that into there, so we emplace both pieces of data. Now, under load image in queue, this is no longer just a string. This is now a pair, so we're going to use destructuring. I think that's what this is called. And so we're going to load both an image file name. Oh wait, this is going to be like image file name. I need to like const auto ref image file name, comma, source location. I think that should be fine. Or I don't know what this syntax is. What did I do? Oh, this was the variable name before. Okay. Cool. So that will put both of those values into those two variables. And then we're going to say image. Oh, I guess I'm just calling this image to load. That makes the most sense. Keeps everything compatible. And then for source location, if this fails, we say fail to load requested resource. And then we can go ahead and spit out this information, which I think this is supported, but we'll see. Standard source location, learn something new. Yeah, it was during the time I was originally coming up with my debugging logging system. Both source location and stack trace are pretty useful to just provide more information when debugging. So whenever my game crashes, so I think it's under, let me see here. Yeah, whenever my game crashes, it releases the stack trace. Unless we're in mscripten. Mscripten doesn't support this, so there's an if-def there. But yeah, it just spits out a stack trace for us, but it's apparently very expensive. I could even get like 2 FPS when I was spitting this out constantly. So hopefully source location is a little better. Yeah. I also think it's like C++ 20, so you have to be a little more modern for it. Also, it doesn't like this. Maybe it has to be converted to like a string or something. Oh. Right, we have to break it out. I guess I'm gonna do like... Here, let me just copy what was in here. So I did it like this. I did line, column, function name, which is fine by me. So that's gonna be source lock. Like so. Line, column, function name. It's like a direct replacement and a bit more convenient for like the underscore line and underscore what was it? File macros that exist in C. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, I couldn't get like 1 FPS. I was probably getting like 0.2 FPS with stack trace, so that's way too expensive to use for constant frame loading. What is going on here? I think IntelliSense is being slow, but this looks correct. Oh, it's a capital L. Oops. Okay, that's why. 1, 2, 3. There we go. It's happy now. Okay, so we're gonna try this. I'm just gonna do the same steps I did earlier and see if it spits out a line number. That would be helpful at least. Because deferred loading, like I said, we're not gonna get an accurate stack trace because it's just gonna take us to this function. And this function's called from the global game update, so that doesn't help us at all. I switched to Catchy OS, and there's a bug. I switched to Catchy OS last week. I can use the latest and greatest C++ now. Oh, awesome. Yay, more experimenting. That's always fun. That's probably a full recompile because everything needs graphics manager. But yeah. As you can see, things are coming along. Like, the graphics manager is really nice because it keeps the memory usage pretty low. Although I haven't gotten to the point where it recycled memory yet, so we still have to test that part out. That's coming though. As I'm clicking around, I'm supposed to get to that point, but I keep crashing for random things, so we have to solve that first. We love Bleeding Edge. I wish Reflection would come to MSVC sooner. I would play around with them more. Because I could get it and play around with it in GCC Trunk, but like... then I'd have to use it on my other computer, and I don't want to deal with that right now. But eventually I would like to experiment with, Reflection. I think it'd be pretty sick if this project had at least something to do with Reflection in it before the end of the year. That'd be pretty cool to have. Alright, so I'm gonna do the same thing as before. I think all we did was try to load the stage, and that was it. So, just come back in there. And then we gotta figure out what's wrong with the theme. Why the theme won't load. Like, it's weird it doesn't even give me an error for not finding the image, it just never loads. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. That tells me that it's probably storing the image icon somewhere, which is why we can't do that anymore, because if you do deferred loading and you store the current image icon, obviously when it gets the real image icon, this is out of date. But it's also not rendering it as if it was the correct HUD image, so I don't know what's going on with that. It's just not the expected result at all. Okay, so this time... if I scroll up, let me scroll up a little more. Load image in queue, image load request asset / forest. Could not find a match case for file name asset / forest. This should not be happening. I don't see the source location. Is this not right? Oh, this is happening in get case insensitive file name. So it's not even coming out of the load function. Oh. This I would have to log before I attempt to load it, because this actually errors out too and causes a crash. I could like try catch it, but I don't... I guess I could try catch it, because it is throwing. Because I want to handle it out here. Yeah, let's do that. Because it's erroring inside of there. So try this function. Get rid of that. And I guess if it's not equal to our code okay, we do want to throw still. So yeah, so it will throw if the function itself fails, but also it should throw if this doesn't give a correct value. Runtime. I guess I want to put runtime error. I think that's what I want. No, runtime exception. No, runtime error. Yeah. Failed to load a resource. I guess I can store this. Our code result. Result is not equal to okay. I don't even think the runtime error matters. I don't think it'll show up. Because it's just gonna go down here then. Because unless I then catch the actual message, which I could do, I guess. I guess it's a good exception writing practice, because sometimes it's necessary in rare cases like this. Exception. And then exception should have a message inside of it, right? Oh, it just has a what? It's a char star. Okay. So I guess that turns into a string, which we can output. I'm pretty sure if you just print a char star, it prints out the string, right? With this operator. I'm pretty sure... error... message, colon... I'm pretty sure that's allowed. I don't think you'll print out the pointer value. I think that's pointless. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure if you print out, like, a pointer to a char, like, character, it will, like, print a character on screen. It's assumed null terminate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, and then here we'll just write the error code. Failed to load a resource with result. I can't type. With result. Doop, doop, doop. Oh, or result. And it doesn't know how to convert that. It's gonna be an int. And I think an int prints out an actual number with this. Oh wait, this isn't a stream. So I can do format, that's fine. Or I can concatenate an S2I value. I'm just gonna do this. I think I still need to cast to an int. Okay, so it'll look like that. Okay. Let me condense that. This is all one line. And this is one line too. Does that work? Apparently not. Okay. Try if... I think these are required for try. Like, I'm pretty sure that's actually required. Okay, anyway. I think we're good. So if it errors out earlier, we'll still get that source location printed out because it will catch and go down here, ignoring it crashing up here. So that should work. Yeah. It's good to, I think, because I rarely use try-catch, so it's good to practice it. For cleanup, I use two data structures. I have standard list, asset, ordered by last used, and unordered map, which is a key to the list of, to an iterator to the list of assets. Okay, so you can do that because it's a list. I'm like, so why not vector? But you can't do that with the vector. Definitely you cannot do that with the vector. So, that's cool. I like that. Okay. Alright, error out and tell me where it is, please. This will also be useful for future debugging, so... It's typically a good practice to avoid exceptions in high performance applications. Oh, good to know. Alright, let's see. Did it do something special? Oh, cool. It printed out render world. Oh, okay, it just looks funny. I assume this is the line and that's the column? 1176 colon... I'm so... What am I reading? Cannot find or match case. This should not be happening. So this happened inside of getting case insensitive file name. So then... that throws... Or then that leaves the throw catch. So that's from the error message. Error does spit out a stack trace, which is just the error to that graphics manager. So that's not useful to us. And then down here, so it leaves the, so now we're in the catch, right? And then it does other code. So this is the other code part of it, where it then error log. Okay, yes, because I can see it's a log, so this is correct. I just didn't do this right. So I did it like, let me see, how did I do this? I put line colon column end parenthesis okay, yeah, I just did it funny because I just like copy pasted it. But anyway, yeah, so that tells us render world line 1176. So we can go there. It didn't tell us the file name. I guess I missed the file name. 1176. Okay, perfect. So now this tells us exactly where the problem was. So it works as intended. I added this manually, and that's where I think the issues arose, was that this needs to be interpreted as a key, so I need to handle that now. Yeah, so the nice thing about list is O to 1 for lookup with the map, or O to 1 to insert, and with the map, now you have O to 1 lookup, which fixes that issue of iterating through the list. Very good. That's actually really smart. I gotta take notes. Okay, so, with this in mind, we need to calculate, again, the backdrop name. So I'm just gonna copy what I did earlier down here somewhere. That's not what I wanted. Back... Did I call it back? What did we just edit? We edited something related to this. Yeah, right here, backdrop file name. So I want this because it's the same paradigm up here. I'm thinking of even making it like a member function and just saying get current map dot get backdrop file name or something. Like, we might go that route if I have to do this in a bunch of places, but I think I only have to do this like 2 more times, so I'm probably okay. But yeah, it looks like we have to include assets slash, or we're forced to. I would like to do it in the format then. That makes things a little easy. Oh wait. No, we have to interpret. So this is supposed to be a variable into data. So I have to actually do this. Data, standard format that, and then take that and add to it assets. Yes. Okay. So that's actually the correct name. Same with down here. So I'm glad I made that variable. Now that makes it easy to adjust. Oh, and I have to do .getString to actually parse the value from that config file. And then it doesn't like this still? Or is IntelliSense just being slow on me? It looks correct. It looks correct. On the context on the cost of exceptions. When you use an exception, it needs to be registered in your application's exception table, which is a range map. So when an exception is thrown, the map gets traversed for your exception handler. Oh, okay. Oh, so it's just using too much. Huh, okay. So I'm trying to just picture in my head. So when you use an exception, it needs to be registered in your application's exception table. So any place in your code that can throw an exception, it's basically like registering it. Like, and then the map has to get traversed for it. Okay. Interesting. Good to know. I wonder then, I guess since this is a static function, is this considered just one location where it's thrown? Because this used to be a macro, And with the macro, it would have been copy paste. So then this would have printed out throw in a bunch of places. So if it was a macro before and I was putting it everywhere, would that have resulted in would that be like where the cost would start accumulating if something like that were to occur? Where like I was creating all these different throw locations that my program needed to be aware of? Because now it's just a static function, so in my head I'm thinking, okay, now it's just in one location in theory. Oh boy. Derail time. But hey, I like learning new things. I'm all for it. Give it to me. Background file name. So there's probably one more place where we do this, and I gotta find it. I'm gonna try to find it before I restart the game. Okay, maybe not. Let's just go for it. So that's actually very useful, and it didn't look like it dropped my performance, so I think source location was the play. So that's good. Way better than stack trace, which brought my debug down to like 0.2 frames per second. It was awful. So we definitely couldn't do that. I do have to fix the message though. Maybe I'll do that now while it's loading that up. Graphics manager. So it's supposed to be, I guess, file name first. So source location dot file name. Follow that up with a open parenthesis, and then the line number, colon the column number, and then the function name afterwards. That way it doesn't look funny anymore. I think there should be a colon here, I think. Anyway, yeah. Okay. So the concept of exception frames, which is your try-catch block, your exception frames post-compilation disappear, but during compilation are used to create your exception tables. Your exception frames post-compilation disappear. Okay. Huh. Post-compilation. So it's kind of weird. Is there only a cost when compiling them? Key backdrops.force does not exist. Wait, really? What? Backdrops.forest. It definitely exists. It should exist. That's weird. I didn't spell it wrong. Okay, that's very strange. This is still that same line, 1176. Go back. I have too many things open. 1176. Literally where we were just writing, right? Okay. Yeah, somehow this isn't correct. Which is strange. Because this is literally the config file for it. but it says it doesn't exist, so I guess we're debugging this line. Because, like, that should be in data. Unless it doesn't load anymore. Did I delete the part that loads it? Oh, maybe I did. Oh my god, okay. I probably deleted the part that actually loads it. Okay, that would actually make sense. Okay, that's an oopsie on my part, and I think I can grab that if I just look at the previous version. I must have rushed to like doing that earlier. You can see there's so much in this diff now that we have to worry about. But let me look for specifically foreground underscore data, because when we populate it is when it's needed, I guess. That's nowhere to be found in here. Or is it? No, it's foredrop. Foredrop data. Is this it? No, there's gotta be a place where we actually load this data. Because it's like... Like, where does this actually get populated? Here it's cleared, which is fine. I don't see it getting populated anywhere, though. It must have been somewhere else. Like... Maybe in, like, a level loading function? I can't imagine anywhere else that would be. Okay, anyways, let's just go, I guess? Because now I'm like, okay, well, let me just inspect the data structure now and see if it even... Are we being lied to, or is it literally not loaded? Okay, so data... go back. So... Objects... It's called backdrops. And there should be a foredrops one, too. So I don't see it. Oh, I see them. So yeah, they are keys in here. Backdrops and foredrops, 188 and 189. So we look at the vector, 188 and 189. Backdrops has 3 items in it. There's forest. So forest definitely exists. So this literally doesn't check out unless this operator doesn't accept... Oh, I don't think this operator accepts the dot properties. I think I have to use get property. I think I forgot how this worked. I'm pretty sure the array syntax does not accept this. Only get property does. You take a quick peek. Visual Studio hates me. It's like your project's too insane. Data file. Okay. So if we look at operator, open bracket in current document, please. Yeah, it doesn't support the dot syntax. I can tell because there's no parsing done here. Whereas if we look at get property, you can see it parses dots. So, that is true. So, exceptions have both compilation and runtime cost. Compilation because the context you have for the frames with recursive frames, and runtime because the exception table gets traversed for your exception handler. Stack unwinding. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to read more up on this. I feel like if I saw some, like, visual diagrams of it, this would probably make a lot of sense. But yeah. This is a topic I am now interested in learning more about. And maybe experimenting, and maybe, like, I can do some, like, heavy profiling of it later and really see what the costs look like. Because I'm more of a hands-on person, right? When I see something, I'm like, oh, let me try it out. And then when I see it actually affecting things, I'm like, oh, now it makes sense. I build that intuition of how it actually works. Yesterday I put a log in the code to debug something and forgot to remove it. when I spent half an hour putting everything upside down trying to figure out why my FPS was so low. Yeah, have to be careful about that. That's why I try not to, like, log too much. But you can also make, like, custom logging levels to avoid a lot of that, right? So you can be more precise. I literally use Emacs data code and use it only for running the game in the debugger. Oh, cool. Yeah, the debugger is useful, so I don't blame you for that one. Okay, so we figured out that the problem was get property. I have to replace the other one now, which is... we just have to find it, right? No, find it. Should be data.getProperty. Yeah. It's like so many details to remember. It's so easy to mess up anything in this project. Like, there's still so many more abstractions I want to do to this project, but, like, is it worth the time with how much other stuff I have to do? Like, I don't even have to do this, like, graphics manager thing. I kind of wanted to, because it seemed like a fun, it seemed like a fun thing to practice writing. Like, having some sort of, like, automated memory management. I thought it'd be a fun, little thing to do. But it did take up, like, a week of game dev time, so, I mean, there's a cost to everything, right? But I did get the Chapter 4 monster graphics from our pixel artist this weekend, so... or last weekend, so I get to implement those next time. That'll be fun. Just to bring some of our monsters to life and not just have all these placeholder graphics everywhere. Okay. Well, we got further in the loading process, but something else went wrong, so let's see. What else? Oh, there's so much in here now. Cannot find or match case. It's still looking for asset/forest. Oh, this is something else. Okay. So once again, it will do the catch, which is down... It's hard to read a little, but it is here. Adventures in the Story line 1181. I must have missed that. 1181. Oh. That's literally down... Wait. Oh, shoot. I literally, like... I just copy-pasted it all the way down. Oh, man. Okay. Well, in that case, yeah, that's easy enough. Background file name, I just didn't look far enough. And then the foredrop name, definitely have to fix that one. Which, oh, I have to do that for the other one too, don't I? It's gonna be like... Well, here I check if the data has the property, because that's actually useful information, but... Then I have to actually read it, which I did. But this doesn't accept dot format, so that doesn't work. Yeah, so this would fail anyway, we found out. So yeah, that doesn't even work. We just didn't get that far yet. So it would be like this, and then I would have to do the same thing, so I would rather make a foredrop file name inside of there. Foredrop file name, and then do all this in there. Bring this out. And then just put this in here and in here. Like so. And we should be good. And then I have to do the same thing down there, I think. Because I essentially had the same code. So let's go down to the other one. Foredrop file name. Somewhere. Oh, that was it? Okay, never mind, that was it. I think. No, I called it foredrop name. There it is. Here's the other one, but same case, same issue, I guess. So we gotta do one of these, put that on a new line. And then take that and put that in here. And in... I guess that's it. Ooh, this one... That one's wrong too. Yeah, we have to fix that one too. Okay. Yeah, in reality, I wouldn't be copy-pasting. I would make, like, functions to grab those, but I'm being lazy. C++ has a lot of language code, so if you can remember it all, we may think one is a robot. Sometimes I feel like I am. There's some stuff I'm surprised I still remember. That just, like, pops up every once in a while. I'm just like, oh, okay. Sure, Amy. I guess we're doing that. Sometimes it just happens. I thought I did not need shadows in my game, but I decided to do it just for fun, and I think it was the right move. The game looks way better. Oh, cool. That sounds like fun. I had to re-architect quite a bit, and if I tried to do it 1 year later, it would be way harder. Yeah, like... Editing the rendering pipeline for this game is a massive undertaking now. To do anything. Because it's just so much involvement. Like, I haven't touched it in a long time, and for good reason. Like, I shouldn't need to, right? Like, every capability of the engine, rendering-wise, is now set in stone, essentially. Like, I went over the requirements a long time ago, but it's like, if we want to change how it looks later because we're like, oh, just like, it's not visually aesthetic, or we want it to look better, that's probably gonna take some rewriting, and that's gonna hurt. But it might have to be done. No. Sometimes you have to eat that cost. We'll see. Okay, backdrop file name goes in here. This is indented like 10 times in. Oh my god. Yeah, this is... speaking of the rendering pipeline... Hello. We're inside of it. Goodness. Okay, anyway. That's fun. But yeah. I guess that's interesting to look at every once in a while. Just to realize how much is actually going on in there on every single frame. Yeah, that's kind of wild. Like, it would probably take a whole day just to look at it and start to understand the shape of it, because there are a lot of parts to it. I know for a fact the game divides up all the tiles into groups, and there's a foreground group, and there's a set of foreground tile groups and a set of background tile groups. And then from there, everything in the background tile groups gets depth sorted and rendered first, and then everything in the foreground tile groups gets depth sorted and rendered after. And then each tile group has its own set of monsters in it, whether the player's in it, if there are like items and bullets in them, or effects in them, right? So like, each one of those have their own stages of rendering. It's really, really crazy. At least you're actually doing coding compared to people who use visual scripting and slap blocks together. I mean, hey, you gotta start somewhere, and that's not terrible. You gotta learn somewhere, right? You can't hate on that. Okay. So, failed to load resource item/boremeat.png. So this is one of those cases where it's using the old assets location. Like, I guess in my old graphics rendering system, I ignored this assets folder, but the assets folder is actually mandatory because it's like, it's inside the directory where all the stuff is. So the word assets / has to be in front of it. So anything that is retrieving from here is grabbing from the wrong location. So we have to fix that. So yeah, naturally it cannot find the directory specified, and oh, excuse me, that was a burp. Adventures in Astoria, line 2151. 2151. Okay, so that's the icon for an ability? Oh, I forgot items can be ability icons. So the place gets assigned is assigning without the assets in front of it. I think I can just add it, but then do I want to add it here, or do I want to change? That's a good question, because it's like, but these are for items, right? These are for cooldowns in general, and the icon is inserted in there, so the icon name should be correct from the get-go. Okay, so I need to find out where these get inserted. So I assume we go into like set loadout item, and that's probably where it gets where it updates the slot. So here we have 3 possible loadout items, so these are 1 for each slot. We're looking for where the icon gets set. So set item for these buttons. I mean, that's fine. That does its thing. But like, where's the icon? So loadout. So this is an array of items. Okay, but does it, where does it do the loadout slots? Lock amount. Loadout slot copy item. Item ability. Okay, so this is the item ability. This is where like the actual. So here it sets the action. Where's the icon though? Right. Oh. Is in this. Aha, there you are. So yeah, here is where we have to add it. So assets slash item slash item name.png. Okay. It was in the constructor. Which, that's a nice constructor, isn't it? Okay, anyway. Beautiful constructor. Also, thank you for the follow, Abyssal Zombie. We're gonna have to call it pretty soon, but I wanted to at least introduce what the graphics manager was doing for the project now, and do a little bit of coding in regards to it, just like finishing things up, right? Like, obviously the game starts now, which is a lot better than where we were last week, and we can see things. Like, there were a few videos I posted on my Discord programming channel over the weekend where I'm like, oh look, here's what my game looks like with just boxes, and then here's what my game looks like with some graphics loaded. It's like, it's kind of funny. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. But yeah, like, I was like, because I was in the process, right, of getting these done, so I'm just like, ugh. These, so yeah, oh, that was the later one. I want to show the earlier one. So this is like, in case you guys are curious, this is what my games looks like when there are no textures loaded. So I'm like, oh, I got to this point where we had absolutely 0 textures loaded in. It's just like, it's just kind of cool to see every once in a while, I guess. That's fun. Secret hard mode. Play the game with no textures. Right? Oh, my game crashed on the title screen. That's interesting. Anyways, it's just kind of cool. Oh, the meteor leaves these particle squares. That's kind of funny. In a big red box. Just kind of interesting. Anyways, why'd the game crash on the title screen? That's surprising. What happened? Failed to load a requested resource circle.png. What? Okay, well, it's deferred loading, so we have to look at the stack thing. The source message. Circle.png, huh? Coding and debugging, lovely stuff. Yeah, always a good time. Well, it was apparently requested from... valid path, circle.png. That came from the case insensitive thing? From a call from... Yeah, that makes sense. So then... So it's from trying to get a source image of the animation, which is load image in... Okay, so unfortunately this doesn't help us because this could be from anywhere. Get source image. Like, anything could have called this, but I imagine if it's circle.png, it's like an effect. So what we can do is we can just globally search the project and see if there are any hard-coded circle.png strings, because there probably are if we had an error. Ooh, yes. So again, if it's got the wrong... Oh god. Are all these like this? Oh wow. Okay. All these strings are just missing it completely. At least I think that's what we have to do. Hold on. I have a feeling that actually adds it for me. Let me see. Okay, hold on. What does create horizontal animation sequence actually do? Image name. Okay, it just literally inserts it as is. So it's going to use the direct image, which means we need to append assets in front of, I guess, all of these. Oh, that's a lot. I almost want to do it on the function itself, but I don't know if that will break other things. Let me see. I almost want to say it doesn't. So I kind of just want to do it on the actual function if everything is utilizing it and making that assumption. But then I have inconsistencies with this. Why don't I just not include it on these either and make it included inside the add frame function? I'm debating design choices. Okay, let's just do this. Let's do... yeah, let's just replace everything in these then. I did it on these, interestingly enough. So, yeah, I guess I just missed a whole bunch. I'm gonna end up doing a find and replace, I guess. So let's replace this with assets slash. That should take care of all of that. And then I think we'll be okay. Hopefully that grabs all the images. At least I hope it does. And then there's a bunch of circle PNGs in other places, so I'm just like, okay. Goodness. I have a bunch of debug things. So now we have to go through and do all of those. I kind of want to do a find all and replace because the rest look good, like safe to do. I think we could do a find all and replace, like on the whole project. So let's just go for it. Circle.png with assets slash circle.png. Not asserts, not whatever that is. Hello. Okay. Replace all. Yeah, replace all. Okay. Cool. That should have caught everything. It's always promising when a game runs and you see a bunch of boxes. Indeed. Also, hi there, Spaff. Welcome. I'm not going to have a lot of UI, but it still bothers me. I do a multiple draw call for every visible widget in the game. Oh. We hate overdraw. It just makes us anxious. It's like, how many frames am I losing by drawing 4 times instead of once? I'm actually more scared than the game if the game is running and broken, it's way easier to fix. Yes, ideally the compiler will be like, hey, you're being stupid, don't do that. Versus you're like, oh, it compiled, everything's working, and then everything breaks. Like, that's actually why all my like errors, or most of my log messages are actually errors that just crash the game, because I'm like, if you're doing this, there's something really wrong, so let's not continue running the game, because I don't want the game is already in a bad state, so I want it to crash. Like, it should be crashing. Alright, what else? What else? We just gotta keep hammering through them. This one is... failed to load resource pixel.png. Okay, so we're kind of seeing this pattern where there's a couple of stray assets that are just probably generically used in, like, a bunch of places and just, like, hand-coded, and which makes sense, right? At some point, I probably didn't realize I was gonna need to change everything. Oh, there's only just one place. Okay, that's cool. I guess it's that. Whatever that wants to do. Overlay? I guess. Do it again. Thanks for the follows, yeah, Alex and Rohan and GN Fricks. Thank you. Also, welcome. Better for it to give you errors now than at full release when people slam you with error reports and you try and recreate some of those errors, right? That's also why whenever my game like crashes, I try to have the stack trace included, because I'm like, if you send me the log file, at least I know at what point of execution I'm starting from, right? How did we get here? And hopefully the logging is at least verbose enough to follow along and be like, okay, at least I know where to start. How do you manage all the libraries in a C++ setup? I hate loading all of them manually and linking them. Well, the first thing that helps me with that is I don't use many. Problem solved, don't use any. No, but to really answer your question, I take some time to just make sure that, like, if I'm setting up a new library, like, I always I do the linker part afterward. Like, first, I just make sure, okay, can I get it to pop up in my IDE? So, like, I do that first, right? I make sure these, like, are set up correctly, because if they are, then in my IDE, they will pop up. And then after that, I'm like, okay, now I have to see if I can get the source files to be recognized. So then I go in here and I add in all the includes for that. And, like, I tried to put them in their own distinct folders and then, yeah, manage them that way. These are all old, by the way. Like, I know I can safely delete all of these, I think. Hold on. What? Some of these don't make sense. This one, I think, is required. I'll have to look at that more. Anyway, I do it in 3 steps, right? And then finally, I do linker stuff. Like, you just kind of have to remember, like, how to do it. You have to do it often if you want to get used to it. And then I'm just like, here we go. And that's it. That should be the 3 steps. Unless you're not using a static lib. Because if you're using a dynamic library, you just have to put it in the same folder as the running executable, and it should detect it. Unless you're on Linux, because then you have to do extra include. You have to change your build command because it's Linux, which is where CMake could come in. But if you use CMake, then you have to deal with CMake syntax. So there's that too. I don't know. I say no matter what, it's going to be bullshit all the way down. You got to figure it out, right? But I do have a CMake, which I use for everything that's not Windows, so I've gone through that pain too, where in, like, here's the Linux one, yeah, which includes, yeah, there's the sources, directories, yeah, and there's the .sos, which then, like, I don't actually know what the command is, like the compiler command is for add library, but I know it does it for me, so I'm happy with that. I don't create all the assets myself. I have a pixel artist which does most of the monster graphics, and I've just done a handful of like character graphics and like spell animations and stuff. And then the tile sets we actually grabbed like from artists on like itch.io. So things that kind of looked, you know, RPG-esque. So assets come from a bunch of places, of course, accredited accordingly. We have credits for everything, and anything you do take from online, you want to always make sure you record, right? Where you got... Wait, something broke that's not like... That wasn't actually part of this. Animation data, animation name, assets/pixel.png. Oh. Wait. The animation is registered as pixel.png, but it draws whatever GFX image source from that frame is. So are we saying that the animation for pixel.png, which I don't even think is in here, is it? Hold on. Let me search this string again, because I think I did this, but maybe I should just search for without the quotation marks. Find all. Because this gets interesting. Like, okay, that's fine. That's the original config file. That's a config file. Okay, all these have assets in front of it. So that looks correct down the wire. So now I'm a little confused, because the error states that the animation data, which is every image gets an animation sequence, even if it's just a still image, which is why we have this function, create still animation. And for any animation that doesn't have one, it also gets a still animation. So I think it's like, yeah, it iterates through any images not specified above and creates a still animation of the image file using the full image. So if the image file, oh, this might be the issue. Because if it's retrieving that, there's no assets in front of it. That's the problem. Okay, so this is a bug. So this should say assets / in front. And pixel.png was not one of the default animations created, so it got clumped into this list of animations, which no longer has which doesn't have an entry. So that's why we were getting an error. It's named Coddle. Oh, that's cute. I made a build system at one point, and then I added like auto updating features for the build system because I got tired of, because obviously it was in development, so every project that used it, I got tired of auto updating the files every time, so I made one of the features of the auto make and build system to have auto updating, and then it just kind of, it became too hard to maintain. Like, basically, I tried it in an attempt to see how hard it would be, and it turned out to be very complicated, and now I'm like, this is why all build systems suck. Because it's just a very complicated process to try and solve. That's probably why there's so many build systems out there. Did you think of using AI in your daily workflow? No, because AI is only useful if you are trying to either go fast or you don't want to... Ooh, okay, we made it to gameplay. That's fun. So, oh, and then we don't. Okay, but anyway, either you want to go fast or you want to not have to rebuild, like reinvent the wheel over and over, and you want like faster. Basically, it's only if you want speed. If you're trying to output, and you either don't care about code quality or you want to reduce the amount of time you spend coding, which you can do for other things. But my whole thing is I enjoy programming. I enjoy the process of problem solving. I enjoy coming up with solutions. I enjoy learning about new solutions. I enjoy the debugging process. I enjoy everything about computer programming, so much so that AI doesn't offer me anything because it actually takes away from all those processes. I don't get to do as much of that if I have AI write it for me. In fact, most of the time, AI can produce very usable code very quickly, and you might just have to tweak a few things. Maybe variable names or formatting is weird. Maybe they get a little bit of functionality wrong, and you're just okay, fix that. It's all good to go. But it's if you don't write the code, you have no attachment to it. You didn't touch any lines. You're well, now I'm just kind of reading code and seeing if it's good. It's it ruins the fun of it. The fun of programming is to program the thing, to make the thing you want to make. But I think some people said it's fun to see the end product. Oh, it's fun when your project actually gets completed in a very short amount of time, and you're whoa, that was magical. Apparently that is fun for some people, and that's fine if that's the way you want to go. But for me, it takes away all those other fun characteristics that you get from programming manually. And so I don't use AI at all for that reason. I don't hate AI. There's nothing against AI. I understand why people use it. It doesn't have any use for me. I don't mind if it's hard mode. I don't mind if it's challenging. I don't mind if my solutions are not efficient or if they are strange. The whole point is to have fun and build something yourself. That's the fun of it for me. And regardless if it makes errors or not, the whole hobby aspect takes all the reasons for using AI out of the equation. Because if you're a hobbyist programmer and you thoroughly enjoy the process of programming, you're not going to care what AI does for you when it comes to programming, because you'll still want to do it yourself. When did you know when you can create your own game or go into this route? Any self-reflection that aspiring programmers can learn? So honestly, for me, I started with something very visual like Game Maker. I know there's somebody that was talking about it was Abyssal Zombie that was at least you're not dragging blocks around stuff. Well, the irony is that's where I started, right? And I think that's where a lot of people started. If you have something visual, it's very easy to just plop some stuff down and see things move. And so for me, that was Game Maker. Game Maker had this drag and drop system, which was essentially a little programming building blocks, just like Scratch kind of is nowadays. And you just kind of plug in some values and things happen. Well, that eventually translates into programming, and then so you kind of already have something that lets you build right away. So for my personal recommendation, at least for people that are interested in doing C++, is to look at some kind of framework either Raylib, which is C-based, but there are C++ ports, or something similar what I use, a rendering framework called OLC Pixel Game Engine, which is a framework that lets you easily put graphics on the screen to let you start experimenting, right? So this is a website that has live, well, it should have, there we go. It should have live features of the Pixel Game Engine running, and this is just what some sample code looks like, and if you were to run it, you would see the Pixel Game Engine action. And the whole point I'm trying to make is that getting something like this set up and running is very easy to do, and then from there it's all about experimenting and practice. You start looking at this code and you're okay, well, if this code is what makes all of this happen, then clearly if I modify this stuff will change, right? And then you're like, okay, well, what happens if I get rid of this line? Like, maybe you have no idea what that line means, and you get rid of it, and all of a sudden you look at the new program, and you're like, all of a sudden, if it'll load, I would like to show it visually. This is just an online, like, C++ compiler, essentially, made with the Pixel Game Engine library included. It's taking a really long time, though. Not being a good example right now. But yeah, you'll see that now... Actually, what did that do? Oh, okay. It's a little subtle, but I see what it did. Sorry, my voice is still a little sick. But yeah, you'll see there's no white dot where the cursor is anymore. That's what that got rid of. I thought I took out this one, which would have gotten rid of the red dot. But yeah, like, honestly, that's the kind of thing you have to do. You have to start looking at this code and be like, oh, if that's what that does, then now I have something to play with. Or I see that's how the syntax looks like. Let me try adjusting, like, where the positions of things are. Maybe I'll try to get things to move around. If this is in the update function, what does that mean for us? Can we make this move? Like, can we make, you know, like, this image move with us, right? Here's the draw sprite thing. Here's get mouse. Maybe you would realize that there's a get mouse X and a get mouse Y function. And maybe if you plug those in for the coordinates and run it, then all of a sudden, the image will now be following your cursor instead. So yeah, like, this is kind of how you get started, is you look at something that's visual and you mess with it, and then all of a sudden you start coming up with intuitions about how code works. Because you can sit there and read tutorials and read like, oh, okay, a function has arguments, and these arguments can be like integers or strings and all that. But if you can just take some code and you can start messing around with it and do stuff with it, you'll see that you could quickly build an intuition of what code actually is supposed to look like. And that's one of my biggest tips, is like, you need something quick that you can keep looking at over and over to build and learn from. Yeah, so that's what I recommend doing. Again, if you're specifically looking for C++, OLC Pixel Game Engine is definitely a good starting place, because it's like a rendering framework where you can literally put stuff on the screen very easily. And you could go to this site called pgetinker.com. Sorry, I'm like really stiffly right now. And yeah, you could just experiment, at least online at first, and then maybe eventually you'll get Visual Studio yourself. Like, I can literally show this. I like showing this because it's very important. Visual Studio just comes with C++ built in. You usually have to just click like desktop development in C++. You get the whole shebang. You literally just create a new project. Empty project, whatever you want to call it. It's literally going to have nothing in it. And then what you do is you take what's called a header file. I'm going to call it OLC Pixel Game Engine.h. I didn't spell it right, but right here. So on this site, there's an OLC Pixel Game Engine.h, and you literally can either download it and drag and drop, or you can go ahead and just copy paste. Then every C++ program uses a CPP file, as it's called. I'm just going to call it main.cpp. And if you then look at the top of this header file, this OLC Pixel Game Engine, you'll see right here, there's an example Hello World program, and you can literally take all this, even that part, that's all a comment, and you can literally just... Actually, I don't know if that works. No, this is all commented, so it's everything from here down. So yeah, you copy this, you can put it in here, and since I typoed it, I'm just going to change that real quick, and then you essentially have a program that spits out pixels everywhere when you compile it. If you compile it in C++, you need at least 17. So in Visual Studio, if you get the newest version, it does start in 17 now, but you need to be in at least Visual Studio 17, so you would do that. If you have that standard, you should be good to go. And then it builds your little pixel, which is gonna destroy my screen bitrate, but yes, that's what that does. So, pixels. And you see, there's just a small loop like this. And that's kind of your way to get started. And for the Pixel game engine at least, everything's kind of outlined in this header file. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll start seeing there's a bunch of these like functions. And these functions are actually really important for explaining like the functionality of it. So you see there's like, so these are like things you can retrieve information from. You can like set the screen size, you can say draw target. That's probably not very useful at first, but then you see down here, there's all these draw functions. These are like your main ways to put stuff on the screen. There's also the concept of sprites and decals. So decals are like the GPU version of drawing images on screen. And then if you need examples of how to do this or how to use it, that's when you can like either look at, again, PGA Tinker has a couple good examples. The community also has built a couple good examples. Like there's a whole community based on this. There's also like a Raylib community. There's like a Godot community, right? A Unity community. Places where you can at least find resources for what you're trying to do and get started from there. You can see there's a couple of like extra examples. Additionally, there's the guy that made this does have a YouTube channel, and if you just want to explore more like programming stuff, even though he specifically has an engine tied to C++, this stuff is all also just based on like general programming concepts. It's not necessarily just in C++. He uses C++, but the programming concepts are applicable anywhere. So if you just wanted to like get some like ideas of how it works or see him use the Pixel game engine in his toy projects when he's demonstrating concepts, there's plenty of ideas here too. So hopefully that gives you some interesting ideas if you're interested. I know I'm a bit of a shill for the Pixel game engine, but hey, my project's built on it, so I kind of get to. It's kind of nice. Anyway, I hope that helps. I like to explain that to people that are like aspiring programmers because it gives them things to look at least like things to try out, right? And when you're starting out, you kind of just have to try out whatever. You have to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. So that's just another thing you could try. Yeah. So that was a lot to say, but yes. Also, I think animation data does not have assets in front of it. I think. But at the same time, I'm searching for... Okay, so that's confusing. I think all these need assets in front of it, and that's going to be the next thing I have to fix. Unfortunately, I am out of coding time for today, so I'm going to have to call it here. But for those of you that tune in, I hope you enjoyed today. It's been a lot of fun. Sorry I'm still a little stuffy in the voice, but we made it through another day. I am recovering well, so pretty soon we'll be back on track. Oh, little Tetris video, full circle moment for me. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, I hope that helped a little, or at least give you some motivation or inspiration. I love to encourage people that are trying to get into programming, because I think programming is so fun, but it can be very intimidating and very hard, and some people don't know where to start. So naturally, I think it's always good to give people some direction and some ideas. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.